Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Books and Bullshit, where the topics are made up and your opinions don't matter. Seriously, they don't. I'm Zachary Chopchinsky, the Bowtie author. Y'all know who he is. I'm sitting here with Martina McAtee, sassy but classy. Martina, how you doing?
Feeling classy, Zach.
Classy AF. We're both lounged out on this fucking sectional sofa right now, like just complete lumps.
Balls in my face.
They're not in your face. They're looking at you.
I can't fucking turn my head because they're just right there. I don't know what you would call that.
First off, they're hidden. They're under my shorts.
They're not that hidden.
You made one wrong
Oh,
move
wow,
and those shorts.
no, there was kind of a flap tunnel.
There was a gap. I'm just saying there's gappage.
The gap is closed.
But your legs are still wide open.
I'm airing out. It's hot in here.
You're airing out directionally in my face.
Well, it's not like I'm blowing them at you or anything.
Yet, the fan is going.
You're just lucky I got all my gas out earlier. I'd be shooting shots at you.
Too tired for this shit, Zach.
All right, nothing says podcasts and Pinkeye. All right, so Martina,
Yes,
what are
Zach?
we going over today?
We are going to talk about reading outside our comfort zone. So, reading genres that we don't normally read and how that worked out for us.
And as evident, damn it,
Remix!
I'm yawning and talking, which never ever works, not a once. As evident by my fat ass right now, comfort is very important to me. I'm trying to use the weight of my hand to cover my balls so they don't...
Because now my eyes go right to your hand, which is literally groping your fucking balls.
I love our friendship, Martina.
I don't know how I feel about this. I wasn't quite ready for this hurdle. Like, I didn't think this was...
It's a big hurdle, you'd say?
You wish I was saying that.
Taking you aghast?
Taking me what? Doing what? I did not consent to that.
What about gaping?
Oh.
Can we please stop talking about your butthole and move on?
And in comes the curtains.
Curtains for the win.
Clotheslining her own husband.
Really, the first time it won't be the last.
She knows all about your gaping hole. Put your fucking leg down, Zach. My dog is far too close to you for that sort of shenanigans.
I end up with a nose in my asshole.
No, he's sleeping. Because he's a cutie patootie. They're all sleeping. They are all unconscious, actually. I don't think they're sleeping. I think they passed out from the heat. I got my hand on his stomach just to make sure he's still breathing.
Well, let's get this knocked out of it so we can get out of this fucking oven of an office.
Yeah,
So,
this is podcast number 4. We've been in here recording since 8 o'clock this morning. It is now 1:04 p.m.
Eastern
Let's
Standard
do this
Time.
fucking shit.
All right, so reading outside of your comfort zone, I think that's a really interesting subject because there's a lot of books out there and a lot of like, if you're in YA or whatever, like different like subsets like that, trends change and you might not always like the trend, you know.
Yes.
So that's going to kind of force you into reading other avenues and subjects, and it's important to keep an open mind.
Well, it's actually how I started reading male romance versus the traditional male-female, because once a certain book hit the market, literally every single book that followed was the same goddamn story.
50 Shades of Grey.
Alpha fucking millionaire / billionaire / trillionaire meets insipid virgin and pseudo vanilla mommy porn ensues. Repeat. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I liked the classic tropes of like romance novels that were just, they're the same. They're always the same stuff, but they do it in new and interesting ways. And it was just fine. It was fun. Romance is supposed to be like, just read it, enjoy it, move on with your life. Like it's not supposed to be something that just sits with you, in my opinion. So I liked the romance part of it. I just couldn't stand that fucking trope, and it just everybody fell in line so fast. it was just, every book was just that. So then a friend of mine was like, oh, I wrote this male romance about a tattoo artist. And you know how I feel about men with tattoos. And I was like, sure, I'll read it. Because I read a lot of male fan fiction. And it was so fucking good. And I was just like, oh, are there more books like this? Little did I know, there is an entire subgenre of romance that's all male romance. And that's sort of how I took a deep dive into that. And now I write it. But it's just, they take some of the older tropes and they just kind of turn them on their heads and they make it about two guys. And I know there's also ones that about, two women. There's male, female, male. There's male, female. Like, there's all kinds of different genres out there now for romance. But that's how I kind of fell into that genre, because I just got sick of reading a different version of 50 Shades of Grey every time I picked up a traditional romance novel.
Yep. And I mean, that's kind of like why, like, when I read in like science fiction, horror, I jump around from one to the other because, like my all-time favorite is always going to be like zombie and horror novels, but then they get really, really fucking into like The Walking Dead, which is something that I was at one point a huge fan of, and then it kind of loses it for me. It loses that horror aspect and becomes like a soap opera with zombies in it.
Sounds like you're saying horror. Loses that horror aspect.
Loses that horror aspect. And I don't want.
I don't read books without that horror aspect. I like my horrors.
Gotta have my horrors and books. Books and horrors.
That's our other podcast. That's going to be our spin-off podcast. It's just
books and
books
horrors.
And horrors.
Where all we do is talk about erotic novels.
I'm down.
Wait a minute. Hang on.
Wait a minute. We might be onto something.
Curtains, write that one down. That might be a thing.
Books and horrors. That's our other podcast.
Books and horrors.
Book horse.
Books and whores. Books and whores. Gotta get me some books and whores.
I mean, I'm just saying, they've got podcasts about 90s YA books. We could get real specific with our genre and just talk about...
We could do a male books and horrors podcast.
Dude, I could do an entire podcast just reviewing fucking just romance novels in general and call it book horrors.
I mean, I do that. I'd read a lot more Nora Roberts. I mean, we all know what happened the last time I read male erotica.
Well, in your defense, there was a lot of hot dogs, meat products, like...
And the funny thing
rimming.
is, I was like, one, afterwards, I was like, I could really go for a hot dog. And two, I'm like, that's such a waste of a good hot dog. Like, why would you put a hot dog on somebody's poop chute? And then, like, you can't just take that back and rinse it off.
As a nurse, I feel that I need to interject. Do not do that. Don't do it. It's not made for that. It's going to get caught up there. There could be a lot of, like, just... First off, you do not want to have to go to the emergency room and explain to people that you have a hot dog up your ass. They're going to have follow-up questions that you're probably not prepared to answer.
And if you always, it's the same question as always, I was putting up a light bulb and I fell. And it...
Yeah. When you come to the ER and there's a doorknob in your rectum, nobody believes you fell on it. Nobody believes that there is any scenario where a doorknob up your ass is an accident. So just admit it. Tell them you let your freak flag fly and things got out of hand and maybe there was some alcohol involved. I don't know. But just be honest.
Hey,
we don't care.
Crazy question, out of the blue.
Sure.
You were really specific about a doorknob and you had that example ready to go.
It wasn't an example.
Yeah.
It was an anecdote because I have seen it in our hospital. There's an entire box of things in our ER that we have removed from people's asses. It's sort of like a Hall of Fame kind of thing.
Like a Hall of Shame.
Or that.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen been pulled out of somebody's ass?
Well, there was the diamond bracelet, which I think I've talked about before.
Not on the new ones.
Oh, yeah. So there was an entire diamond bracelet in a lady's ass. She swore she swallowed it, but nobody was buying that.
How do you swallow a diamond tennis bracelet?
Carefully, because it's going to make a lot of damage on the way down.
Yeah.
If a diamond will cut a mirror, it will also shred your insides.
I'm thinking diamonds and prongs.
Though a lot of people swallow diamond rings on accident when
some asshole
people
puts it in food.
Correct.
And then you're just playing the waiting game.
Yep. Hope you got a strainer. And let's see. There's been so many things. Weird variations on on vibrators. Like anything with that shape, flashlights. Flashlights are popular. Hairbrushes. Those hairbrushes that you see like in the Walmart section that always have just those slightly odd shaped handles. Like maybe they're sort of circular. Or maybe they've got ridges.
So
there's been a lot of those.
flashlights, and then some guy comes in there looking like a fucked up Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Is that why you have so many flashlights?
Also, the vibrating eggs, the sex toys, guys, those were not meant to go up there. They get lost. Like in the vagina, there's only so much room. Eventually, you can get it. You got like a 5-inch margin. Your intestines go all the way up. It can just keep going. It's vibrating. It's moving. It's got momentum.
We have a runner.
Exactly. And that means somebody's going to have to send in a fishing line and fucking pull that bad boy back.
Ones, like the little pocket rockets that have like the cord on them attached to your remote control. You can just yank those right back out though.
You can. But again, also just be aware there are 2 very tight muscles that you have to get past. And getting them in is a lot easier than getting them out. So just be aware of your anatomy, folks. Just saying, play safe.
The more you know.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure how we got on that topic.
Okay.
Hot dogs, don't put them in your ass. That was what I was getting at.
Or your brother's tongue.
Or, wait, don't put hot dogs on your brother's tongue?
No.
I mean, don't do that. That's just fucking weird. And it
brother's
causes
tongue
like
in
some
your
blurred
ass.
lines.
Yeah.
But,
Nah.
yeah.
Don't put your brother's tongue in your ass.
Especially not without his permission. That's rape.
I feel like, yeah, that's a bare minimum assault.
Yeah. And if you're going to let your brother basically rim you, get permission.
And if you're getting rimmed by your brother, it better be your brother from another mother. Because if it's your, like, blood relative brother rimming you, you either are breaking the law or live in West Virginia. One or the other, it's not good, and you probably have blue people in your family.
Did you say blue?
Yeah, blue family of Kentucky.
Oh, blue. Oh, okay. I was like blue, like little green, little green men, like little blue men, like
you
Smurfs.
Probably have blue some
Avatars.
people in your family.
You have avatars in your family, or Smurfs.
You probably done blued some people in your family. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if your brother's rimming you, chances are you've blown him at least
Yeah, I was
once.
getting ready to say, chances are you guys,
or you're going to.
Yeah, you guys have played Hide the Knobgoblin.
I always love that word.
Knobgoblin.
Knobgoblin's probably one of my favorite words.
I remember one time I had a gay friend describing like when he thought he was gay, and I was like, and he was like, yeah. So I decided to test it. And God, Jesus in heaven, never ask a gay person how they tested anything, because
unless of course they're say a scientist, in which case they're backing up their research. In which case you should probably have them validate that.
Yeah, but never ask them how they tested if they were gay, because he was
because
like,
that's when Zachary came to some startling conclusions about himself.
He was like, yeah, so I did a handstand, and then just, like, self-diddled, and then just, like, aimed for my face. And I'm like,
Wait a minute. We need to discuss. This motherfucker's doing a handstand while jerking off.
Yeah, so basically, like,
that's a level of fucking...
So
that's expert
like,
level jerk off.
He backed up, like, to the wall, and, like, slid his feet up the wall, and then, like, perched on his shoulders, and then just, like... at himself.
I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah, no, that's what he said he did. And I said, and I got him. I was like, dude, you would have done that. I said, why didn't you just like go on your hand and then like lick it or something? He goes like, oh no, it's straight from the tap or nothing.
Hi, bullshitters. If you're gay and out there, I would like you to please write in and tell us that this is just not how you knew you were
preferably
gay.
If you're gay and male, because I don't think women would understand what it's like to do a handstand and try to ejaculate into their own mouth.
I imagine that it would probably be a lot like doing a handstand and trying to fucking double click your mouse. I don't think that most people have the agility necessary for said
It wasn't
thing.
a handstand, more so it was like he was like you like on his shoulders and neck, like that half-assed yoga handstand.
And I'm sorry, but if you've ever seen porn, you know that if you wait long enough, a guy can jerk off in his own face, laying perfectly prone, without having to literally stand against a wall. At least if you're Jake Bass.
I was gonna say it depends on it depends on the horsepower behind that shipment.
I'm just saying, some guys have no problem saluting themselves. Like, hell, Jake Bass, he can get it right over his head into onto the wall. He's notorious for it.
Well, this Mr. Bass sounds very talented.
He is, but he went legit, and now nobody gets to watch him do porn anymore.
I mean, he went legit.
I mean, he's now an actual, like, legit signed model, so he mostly just does shit with his clothes on now.
You sound disappointed.
I'm super disappointed. He was literally my favorite porn star. Yes, it's true. Feel free to tag him in this. I follow him on Tumblr and Twitter.
And now Tumblr got rid of all the porn, so you lost that.
Yeah, totally. But I can still watch him on RedTube.
She's very proud. So anyway, reading outside your genre is very important.
What Zach's gonna be doing tonight.
Watching Jake Bass on RedTube?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, Jake Bass is gay, so this should be fun.
Yeah, we can use the Xbox and put it on the put it on the TV. We can all watch it.
I have a list of some of his greatest hits, so if you're actually going to check it out, I'll let you know.
Are they? It's like a compilation, like shot by shot.
I guarantee you that exists, but no.
All right, so reading outside your genre is very important to grow as a reader and appreciate other genres. Yeah. So I think
So Zach, what was your main reading genre growing up? Like, what did you gravitate towards, like, when you were baby Zach?
Baby Zach.
Okay, middle grade Zach.
Middle Zach.
Please, for the love of fuck, stop doing that. And don't kick my dog in the face.
Oh, baby.
He's so dead to the world. I'm starting to think he is unconscious.
So it's weird. As a kid growing up, and even in like middle grade and all that, once I got to like the Harry Potter stage, and the first book came out, I really got into like that, like fantasy. But before that, it was such a hodgepodge mixture of all the assigned ratings that school gave me. Because for whatever reason, when I was assigned a book in school, I was like the only nerd in class that liked it. Like I have the K that I got, My Side of the Mountain, Across 5 Aprils. They were all like they weren't thriller or fantasy or anything, but they were all just middle grade fiction, and they were really, really good. I don't know. It's just weird. Across 5 Aprils is about the Civil War. I really like the Civil War.
You fucking talk
You've
about
talked
this book all the
You've
time.
talked about all three of those books.
Why? Those are some of my big ones.
It's the only 3 books he's ever read. He's a fucking fraud.
No, I read a lot in the book of like. One of the other things we're talking about is like, there's something about that old like elementary middle school English book with all those short stories in it that were amazing.
Yeah. No, they really did have some great...
I can't think of a lot of the titles, but I remember there was one about molasses that was cool, about this kid that was obsessed with molasses. I think I've talked about that one before. I remember Arsenic and Old Lace, actually, we read excerpts out of one of those books because it wasn't the full one. A Walk in the Park was good.
I got into a lot of those Agatha Christie type books because my dad would take me to the used bookstore, and I would read outside my genre because when you're at a used bookstore, you've got like a very targeted, like some used bookstores are very specific about what they sell. It's like, oh, we have romance and Westerns. It's like, oh, okay. Well, then I guess I'm reading one of those because I really need something to read. But like, even though I stuck with mostly probably like horror, like Stephen King stuff and young adult books when I was like in that age, sometimes I would just pick up either one of my dad's books. I remember my dad used to read these books by a guy named Clive Cussler. Mm-hmm. And I know his main character's name was Dirk. And that should tell you the level of testosterone in these books. And as much as they were just straight up, just jerking off the whole toxic masculinity vibe, they were really fast-paced books. So even though you're kind of rolling your eyes the whole time you read them, you can't stop reading them because they are like super action-packed. So sometimes I would read those, and even though they were really outside like what I would read, they were great books. It's how I discovered historical romances. I wanted a romance novel, nothing at my disposal but my grandmother's giant just bookcase full of just practically pornographic bodice rippers. And I remember I was like young, probably 11 or 12, and there was a book called Shayna. by Kathleen E. Woodowis, who at the time was like the be all end all of historical romances. If you're still alive, I'm sorry. I don't know, because I was really young when I started reading those books. And it was so intense. Like, I'm used to reading like little 150 page like romance novels, like where you're just one and done and you just go on to the next one. These were like 400 page like sweeping sagas, just filled with just dirty sex and just angst. And at 12, that was my fucking jam. I was like, this is everything I never knew I always wanted. Like, and
She
I
died
just,
July 6, 2007.
oh, rest in peace.
It's funny, you search her, the first thing that comes up.
Shayna.
Shayna.
It was one of her most popular books, and it was just so intense and just everything, you know,
She
like
has
so.
really good covers.
Oh, she had some of the best old school
pulling up
covers. You know the ones.
Sorry.
They talk about these books a lot on Smart Women Trashy Books, which, by the way, is a great blog. Probably also is a podcast. If it is, shout out to that podcast. But they do a lot of they do one thing where it's like a cover, and then the four of them will talk about the cover and their impressions of it. Some of these covers are fucking hilarious, and they just trash them. But these things are just so badly made. It's like, why does she have a third hand? Like, that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's how I discovered historicals. That's how I discovered male romance. I discovered my dad's action books. It's how I kind of veered into thrillers, like the psychological thrillers. Reading my mom's James Patterson, Kiss the Girls. By the way, you want to talk about Stephen King and the gangbang? How about James Patterson basically anally raping a girl with an actual fucking snake? Yeah, that's a thing that happens.
Or you remember the scene from The Evil Dead where that girl got raped by a tree?
I do remember that.
You know, it's funny, as I'm thinking about it, also one
Splinters.
one area that I went into really heavy when I was a kid is...
Tree rape.
Yeah.
You became a dendrophiliac.
Well, no, Asian philosophy books.
I thought he was going Asian porn. No, Layla and I hive mind. We're over here just looking.
No, Asian philosophy books. So, like the Tao Te Ching and a lot of those books I read. I don't know why. I just liked them. I thought of myself as a Buddhist as a kid. And, but no, I read a lot of books that were based in the realm of video games. Like, I actually have a full collection down there of all the Resident Evil books that are based around the original games that were actually book first, then game, which a lot of people don't know. All the Halo books, which were really good. Dungeons and Dragons, actually. You know, you have the game D&D, but there are so many books about the Forgotten Realms where you actually have full fantasy novels that actually are trademarked to Dungeons and Dragons. I read a lot of that. So yeah, a lot of dense fantasy and science fiction when I was a kid is kind of what I developed into. Yeah.
All right.
Just wanted to contribute a little.
Good talk. Good talk.
Yeah. But now you find your genres and tastes change and genres change. But now let's talk about trying a new genre and some of the important things that you have to remember when you're reading a new fucking book. All right?
This is when Zach starts yelling at you to not talk shit about books
Yeah.
and reviews.
Now, I will say that this is just something that, fortunately, knock on wood, this hasn't really affected me, except for once when I was first starting on my first book, and it was a bullshit review. But be open-minded when you're trying new books and trying new things, and understand that certain things, like certain foods, may not be for you, and that's by no fault of the cook.
Yeah. I will say this. I don't leave bad reviews. I never have. Unless it's something that is so...
egregiously awful.
Yeah, not even... And it's not to do with bad writing. It's more to do with, like... if you have an aversion to this, you should probably be aware. Like, there's creepy, weird child rape in here. Or there's something so morally repugnant. Like, this is sold as romance, but it's really just some guy tying a girl up and raping her against her will. That's not fucking romance. Like, so that sort of thing I would leave a review on. Like, just so you know what you're fucking getting into. But if I didn't like a book, if I didn't finish a book, I just move on with my life. If I loved a book, I'll review it. But if I hated it, I don't feel the need to ride in and fucking shit all over somebody's work. I just don't.
I love the people that stamp shit DNF.
Oh, my last review on book one, a girl flat out gave me 2 stars, said she didn't finish it, and made
That's
some.
what DNF means.
Yeah, did not finish, and made some comment like, page 70 and nothing's happened yet. Like, okay, fine, whatever. That's your opinion. Fine.
Yeah, coming from, she's talking about page 70 in your book. In your book's the size of a fucking
My
grape.
book's 532 pages. So, page 70. I'm still setting up a story. I'm sorry. I got a lot to say. I am very wordy. No, I'm not, actually.
It's called world building, you uncultured swine.
No, but it's fine. If it's not your thing, that's fine. But if you go into a different genre and then by no fault of the writers, it's not your jam, don't go and shit all over the book just because it's something that you personally didn't like. If it's not something that's a technical issue or just poor writing or whatever. If it's just not your thing, if you don't like multi-point of view books and you picked up a multi-point of view book, don't shit all over the book because it's multi-point of view. You could have just stopped reading as soon as you realized that. If you only like books written in the first person and you picked up a book written in the third person, that's on you. Yeah. That's what he's saying.
What were you going to say, Curtains?
Speak, Curtains, speak.
Come on.
You can do it. Come on.
I was gonna say that you don't have to turn the thing around.
She doesn't like it when you point the
don't
big
like
black
the
thing
big-
in her face.
Sorry.
You have the first 30% for free that you can read, and it is your job to read that and determine whether it is you want to read the book or not.
Do your due diligence.
I mean, and I've seen reviews before where people will leave like a 3-star review and they'll say, this wasn't my particular type of book I normally read. Then why are you reviewing it low if you're admitting right out the gate, and this isn't really my kind of forte?
Especially when you got a copy for free. If you're like an ARC reviewer and you're just writing into a post like, I got this copy for free to review it, but it's not something I even like, but now I'm just going to give it a shitty review because I said I would review it. We're okay with you not reviewing it.
Yeah, and
it's fine.
And
it's a one-off.
To me, but if you're an ARC reader and you ever become an ARC reader of mine and you do that, you will never ARC read for me again.
Oh, and on that note, if you hate read my books, please don't feel the need to keep hate reading them. If you're on book 3 and still writing a shitty review and telling me that 3 books in you still don't like my books, that's not on me. That's now on you. If you're still paying $5 a book to read my books and shit all over them, that says way more about me or you than me. Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Yes, it is. And I agree completely. And that's kind of, and that's, again, think about what you're doing and what you're saying before you do it. Don't be an idiot.
Don't be a stupid head.
Don't be a stupid. Don't be a spooty head. Don't be a spoot head.
Or a chicken head.
Chicken head.
Oh, the stretchiest. Oh, the baby.
But that being said, it is always good to go out and like try new things because you never know what kind of things you will like. Like, for example, when I was talking about the types of books that I used to read as a kid, it was in the middle of one of those that, again, I was looking for something to read. My grandmother had one of her Nora Roberts books out. I didn't have anything. I was on the islands, and we didn't really have cable or anything. So I was just like, I picked it up, and I read that book.
And several sticky copies later,
I know,
he was
right?
a Nora
Exactly.
Roberts fan.
Nora Roberts made me a man. Thanks, Nora. See, why is she not, like, using me to help her sell books? I feel like, I am a fan. She could use me as, like, a testimonial. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, it's funny because I just saw a list of, like, basically, it was, like, something like 15 non-erotic erotic books. Like, Nora Roberts was on that list, like, 4 times. And then somebody put Lolita on the list. I'm sorry. Lolita, as told from the POV of a dirty fucking pedophile in love with a 12-year-old. I'm sorry, but if you're jerking off to that, that's not erotica. You're a fucking pedophile.
And I probably wouldn't have posted that.
They totally did. It was Cosmo. Yeah, totally woke ass Cosmo is just like, oh, by the way, here's a little fucking child porn for you.
Morons.
Agreed.
All right, so Martina, what does the social medias have to say about reading outside of your comfort zones?
So our 3 listeners have to say, no, I'm kidding.
Thanks, guys.
Let's see. Elizabeth says, ironically, your book. Me.
Yeah, they never talk about me in those posts.
We don't know that.
They don't.
It's just, okay, I'm on post I'm on one. Paranormal has always been my quote-unquote guilty pleasure, but I mostly read it to make fun of it. Wah, wah, wah. Because the mainstream paranormal is so ridiculous, i.e. Twilight. She wrote that, not me. Send all your hate mail to Elizabeth.
I like fun of my fucking book, so
I like unique interpretations of classic creatures, not creations, which is what I was going to say. Blue Bloods is amazing, and Soul Screamers was amazing. I'm assuming those are YA books. I don't know, but they sound YA-y.
yeah.
But for the most part, until I read Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, I never read it. I'm assuming she means YA. Until I read Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, I never read Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
No shit, dude.
Imagine. And then I did, and we all know where I stand now. I am openly obsessed with paranormal YA now. I generally just read contemporary and fantasy. Oh, and there's the Mara Dyer trilogy. Word. If nobody has read the Mara Dyer trilogy, that was the first book is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, I think. It is, yeah, it was such a fantastic book. It was totally different than any of the YA books I had read before. And I was standing in the aisle at the bookstore, and I just opened it, and I read 10 chapters just standing there. And I was like, this is awesome. And the whole trilogy was fantastic. So I highly recommend. I am right there with Elizabeth. Great trilogy. You should totally read it. Ivan says, I mostly read paranormal and fantasy, but I read this book that's like Bonanza meets the X-Men, and I love it, even if it's like a paranormal / Western. Yes, that's the nice thing about reading outside your comfort zone, and it's a nice thing about indie books. They don't necessarily have to fit into one genre. There's a lot of people doing some really weird and different shit with indie books, like Zach, who writes in a different genre for pretty much every
There's not even a genre
book.
in the same
Yeah.
book. It's
Like,
25
yeah.
pages
I have a lot of different things to say.
Yeah, which is great for reading, not
It's
great
a
for
bitch
marketing.
I was gonna say, I'm glad you guys enjoy it because it's a motherfucker for me to sell them.
Yeah, exactly. But if you can sell X-Men / fucking Bonanza, then, I mean, you should talk to her and find out what she's doing for marketing.
Right.
Rebecca, every now and again, I fall apart. Every now and then I read my husband's military action / suspense books, aka Jack Reacher series. Good books. My normal books are urban fantasy and paranormal / horror. Word. Especially when they're more task-oriented over romance or romantic. Romance is totally okay, but I like the plot to be a bit more broad. I want my peeps to have kick-ass adventures.
It's funny with that because I actually one time at a First Utopia I met an agent and heard that was her complaint. She was looking for good science fiction, things like that in the YA genre. She goes, but no romance. This fucking market has so many things with a romance aspect. And she's like, nobody writes fantasy or sci-fi anymore without a romantic interest.
Right, because everybody
bullshit.
wants that whole book boyfriend aspect because it's a whole marketing thing, like meet your next book boyfriend kind of thing. Rebecca also wrote Tales of the City by Armistead Maupin. That's a great fucking name, even if it's not your real name.
Armistead is awesome.
Armistead Maupin. It's in my top 3 of all-time favorite books, and it's a modern, serialized coming-of-age drama. I want to read it. Totally not anything close to what's in my wheelhouse, but shit, it's so good I could cry right now.
Damn, that's a
Yeah.
That's a review.
Yeah, it is. Let's see. Jennifer Zamboni. I love your last name, by the way.
I know.
Makes me happy every time I read it.
She's from Maine.
I read all over the place. I can't say I read much out of my comfort zone because it's so broad. I like all flavors of fantasy, some sci-fi, romance, horror, mystery, thrillers, YA, NA, graphic novels, lit fic. I haven't read any RH, which is reverse harem for those of you out there who don't know it, but I have some in my to-be-read pile. I'm a big fan of character-driven stories and often find purely plot-driven stories to be disappointing. I'll give anything a chance.
Yeah, because the character-driven stories are much better in many respects because you start aligning yourself with the character.
Who is that? Zamboni?
The other Jennifer.
The other Jennifer. The other white meat.
The other Jennifer.
Guys, we have a new Patreon.
This just in, guys.
This
We
just
have a new
No, she already was.
I know, it's just funny. Like, Let's go to the board.
But but what the fuck was I saying?
We don't know.
Oh yeah, no. The cool thing about character driven rather than plot driven or story driven, it's like because you align yourself with those characters, then it's almost like as they're experiencing those things, you are with them.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Kat says, I run horror, dystopian, apocalyptic, preferably with zombies, paranormal, and cozy mysteries. I think she means, like, I read. Maybe
and I ran.
Ran so far away. Let's see. Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. So are we. I read most of the Outlander series except the brand new ones and love them even though they're all romancy. Yes, they are. Also, one of the first romance novels I ever read, this is me, not her, that had a male rape scene in it. I don't think I've ever seen that in a romance novel before. Lots of bodice rippy, rapey girl stuff, but Outlander was the first one I ever saw where a dude got raped. And he was the main character. Like, and they had to deal with that kind of fallout.
Was it a male or a female rape?
Male on male.
Wow.
Yeah, it was intense. And it was super intense in the show. So much so that Melissa had to get up and walk away. We were watching it. She's like, either turn it off, fast forward it, or I gotta leave the room.
Clearly she's never seen American History X.
Dude, it was intense because it was almost the entire episode of just him being tortured and then raped. It was intense. But yeah, so good on you, Diana Gabaldon, because that was some old school 80s stuff, and that's a very new agey topic to have in a very old book. Like, wasn't nobody doing that shit back then, and she still somehow made it super successful.
Shout out to Stephen King too for The Green Mile when he had the Andy Dufresne stuff with the Boggs brothers.
That was Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption.
Huh?
That was Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption.
Not Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, Shawshank.
Yeah,
Redemption.
You said The Green Mile.
My bad.
Hey, if you go looking for Andy Dufresne getting raped, you won't find it in The Green Mile.
Yeah, no, you will not.
And Andy is grateful. Stop fucking with your microphone.
Hold my hand.
She's not doing that.
Hold my hand.
Corey Lynn says, every book since I was young when I could change genres from mysteries like Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, horror, Stephen King, fantasy, Robert Asprin? Robert Asprin? His last name is Asprin? I didn't know that. Terry Brooks, also historicals, too many to list, all the way to nonfiction. I don't have a true genre. I have no true genre. She's without country. she is an island. She is a woman alone. She's reads everything.
Unaffiliated.
Oh, Lee. Isn't this your friend? Lee?
Yes.
I read multiple genres. Never really read YA fantasy until Hall of Doors series. Yep. Oh, look at that. Somebody talking about Zach's book. Mr. Boohoo, nobody ever means me.
It's because I signed his timesheets.
Hey, look, it counts. Now I have the box set. I might have to check out some others. Did you force him to buy the box set?
I may or may not have. Also, Anthony may or may not have bought 3 copies.
Shout out to those guys. You should, I feel like you should mention them every time you say your USA Today pencil.
Thanks, Anthony and Lee.
Yeah. Let's see. Tanya says, I normally want my escapism with magic, dragons, etc., but a good friend of mine is a writer, and I finally decided to try a book of hers. She writes crime drama and strong female characters. Shout out to strong female characters.
We get it, Martina. We all write strong female characters.
Shut the fuck up, Zachary.
The slow, dramatic head turn really made that for me.
I never thought I'd... Wait. She writes crime drama with strong female characters, but very dark and rapey. Rapey. She said it. I never thought I'd survive one book. God damn. I have now devoured everything she has written. This sounds like how Tanya turned into a deviant. I like it.
Right.
Turns out a good story and characters that hook you is more important than the genre. Put that on a fucking t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about, character-driven rather than plot-driven.
CJ says, I usually read sci-fi or fantasy, but Hopeless by Patricia Rose, who is also one of my favorite people, Patricia Rose, she's awesome, really opened my eyes. It's a kidnapping detective thriller, but has a backdrop of BDSM. Patricia, I'm going to need you to hook me up. Send me that shit
Martina's eyes just lit
post-haste.
up. Holy shit, dude.
How have we spoken so many times and you never dropped that on me? Yeah. He said he loved it. I'm sure I will too.
That's just like one of our associates used to start giving us more mathematical porn.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
You know who you are. Esri says, I read science fiction and paranormal, in parentheses, only after the Dead Things series opened my eyes. I was a one genre child. I want to make a point of saying that she is 15 here, literally a child. So it's not like she was like 45 and suddenly my book series changed her life. She's a child. She doesn't know any better.
I mean, that's a fair like caveat. Like that's a disclaimer. Like
Yeah.
she is actually a child.
Let's see. I was a one genre child with a few exceptions, but I read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. He writes good books. Can't falter for that. I don't typically read coming of age stories. I didn't either until I started reading Alex's book, which was fucking awesome. And now I kind of have a whole new genre that I dig. She said she absolutely loved it. I never felt so understood for my anxieties and stuff, and it became one of my favorite books, which was a complete surprise. I've heard that about that John Green book, but I haven't read it yet myself because I don't read YA much anymore.
Heard.
Dawn. Oh, my friend Dawn, who, by the way, just put out a book called Not Quite Dead. And I'm halfway through it. It's fucking amazing. It's a medical mystery, kind of like Robin Cook. Remember back in the day, like Coma and stuff? It's fucking fantastic. She got a review from Publishers Weekly telling everybody that it was amazing. And she says, my book. Thanks, Dawn. Really, she's like, I like that she qualified that, like I would see that it was her and be like, she's just saying that. She wrote, your book, period, really, period. Hadn't read YA since Harry Potter in my 20s or anything close to Paranormal since Anne Rice in my teens. Does that even count? She put in parentheses. I bought your first Dead Things book and read it cover to cover in a few days. It was great and not at all what I had expected. She wasn't expecting it to be great. I won't take that personally. If you see a review on Amazon that says about the above, that one's mine. Thank you.
So that's 2 for Martina.
3.
But who's counting?
Just saying. But again, it should be noted that both Esri and Elizabeth, 2 out of 3, are on my non-existent payroll. They both work for me for free. Which I don't know if that drives home the point that they love the books or that I'm a slave driver.
Yes.
Or both. Let's see. Stacy says, I love paranormals, histories, and mysteries. For me, the surprise came from dystopian/zombie book called The Harvesting by, our girl Melanie Karsak. She writes the steampunk ones, right? The steampunk fairy tales? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Her covers are fucking bomb-ass shit. Covers. They are so fucking good. I'm not a fan of zombies. That's Stacy, not me. I love zombies. They creep me out and set off my depression. That's fair. Yeah. A zombie apocalypse is such a hopeless situation. Generally. Also fair. You watch most, if not all, of the people you love die, and even if you live, you have to be on the run all the time. Finding food and water is difficult, and what happens when you run out of ammo? Okay, I need to stop before I give myself a panic attack. Stacey's going through it. The reasons why I picked up this book/series is because I loved Karsik's other series. I loved every single word in this series. Karsak actually managed to take a zombie apocalypse and add hope to the equation. Plus, she's just an awesome author. Hey, Melanie, I hope you're reading this right, or hearing this right now. Let's see. Okay, finally, Catherine says, I remember my husband many years ago. I remember him way back when. No.
We were young, supple.
I think there was supposed to be like a comma there. I remember, comma, my husband many years ago, then boyfriend, got me into a series called The Dragonlance Chronicles. I probably wouldn't have read it if it wasn't for him. Yeah, remember back when you used to do shit for your boyfriend because you were like, I just want to know what he's into. Now it's like your husband, and you're like, I don't fucking care what you're into. Go read your dragon book, whatever.
Follow me on my social media and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, shut up. I wouldn't have read it if it wasn't for him. He also introduced me to the Dark Tower series, awesome series, which maybe I would have read since I loved It, Salem's Lot, The Stand, and so on. Lol. I was more into Anne Rice, L.J. Smith, John Saul, Charlene Harris. Yes, girl, yes. I read all of those people. Then I also came across an indie YA authors and then got into more and more of them. Nice. And that's what our listeners have to say.
That's what you kids have to talk about.
Yeah. Just reading all your shit back at you.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing the work for us,
guys. This isn't filler at all.
Yeah. Hey, why else are we asking them if we're not going to fucking read what they say?
That's true.
Their opinions do matter.
But
contrary to what we tell you, your opinions matter greatly.
When it helps us. So
yeah, especially when you're talking about how great you think we are.
Right. So anyway, yeah. So, at the end of the day, we all have the different things that we like, but try something new. You never know what you might like, because it sounds like almost every one of those was wouldn't never tried this, but one small thing happened, and now I love this.
Maybe just throw a bunch of genres in a hat, pick one, go to a used bookstore, grab a book out of that genre, or give it a read, and then let us know what you thought about it.
Might I suggest anything by Martina McAtee or Zach Chupchinsky?
Yeah, I mean, 3
works.
out of 16 readers liked it on this.
I had one, and I pay him.
Yeah, that does sort of put a damper on the review when it's like, I feel the need to say that this man is my boss. He signs my paychecks.
I mean, you definitely have much more friends on this page than I do.
I pay nobody because I have no money. I pay nobody.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for coming on by. It's been another fun episode of Books and Bullshit. Martina, you want to hit them up with our links one more again?
Okay. Man, this is getting exhausting.
Last one.
All right. Facebook.com/Books and Bullshit Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Twitter.com/Books and BSP1. Yes?
Books and Bullshit P1.
Is it?
Books Bullshit P1.
Oh, Books Bullshit P1. I've been telling you guys that wrong for the 3 episodes, and she's just now catching that. And Instagram.com/Books and BS Podcast. Yeah.
Seems legit.
If you can't find us, just type in Books and Bullshit. You'll find it. Or not. Or don't.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming by. Bye.
Bye.